The cargo containers shook as something heavy slammed against the outer hull. Danny Reed stopped mid-lift, his muscles tensing as the magnetic clamps holding the freight in place groaned under sudden pressure. He'd been loading medical supplies onto the merchant freighter Dawn's Promise for 6 hours straight, and his back already hurt before the boarding alarm started screaming. "All crew to Central Bay immediately," the intercom crackled with Captain Rilland's voice, high-pitched and trembling. Danny recognized that sound. The mammalian captain was terrified. He dropped the supply crate and jogged toward the Central Bay, his work boots clanging against metal grating. Other crew members rushed past him. Tivik the avian navigator with his feathers standing on end, Engineer Crossed dragging her reptilian tail in a defensive curl. Everyone looked ready to bolt. The Central Bay doors hissed open to reveal 15 figures in dark armor. Their bodies were insected, covered in chitinous plates that gleamed under the ship's harsh lights. Compound eyes reflected fragmented images of the terrified crew. Danny counted 4 arms on each of them, and every hand held a weapon. "Krell pirates," someone whispered behind him. Danny had heard stories. The Krell Syndicate controlled half the outer territories through psychological warfare. They didn't need to fire a shot most times. Their reputation alone made entire crews surrender. The lead pirate stepped forward, mandibles clicking in what might have been laughter. "Your cargo belongs to us now." The translator pin on his armor turned his chittering into galactic standard. "Resist and suffer, submit and live." Captain Rilland raised his furry hands in surrender. "Take what you want, just don't hurt my crew." The pirate commander's mandibles spread wider. "Oh, we won't hurt you," he gestured to one of his warriors. "Not physically, anyway." A Krell soldier pulled a cylindrical device from his belt. Danny watched as purple gas began hissing from vents along its surface. The mist spread quickly, rolling across the floor like liquid smoke. Tivik was the first to scream. The avian navigator's wings flared out as he stared at something only he could see. His beak opened in a shriek of pure terror. "The sky predators, they're here, they're hunting." Engineer Crossed collapsed, her claws scraping against the deck as she curled into a protective ball. "Fire! The homeworld is burning. I can smell the ash." Captain Rilland's eyes went wide and glassy. He backed against the wall, whimpering. "The plague, it's back. I can see them dying again." Danny breathed in as the purple mist reached him. It smelled sharp like burnt copper mixed with old gymnasium equipment. He waited for something to happen. His heart rate stayed steady. His breathing remained normal. The gas swirled around him, thick enough now that he could barely see the other crew members writhing on the floor. He took another deep breath, trying to understand what everyone else was experiencing. Nothing, just that weird metallic smell. "Interesting," he muttered. The pirate commander's compound eyes focused on him. "Why aren't you screaming human?" Danny shrugged. "Am I supposed to be?" The commander clicked his mandibles rapidly, a sound that the other Krell seemed to recognize as agitation. "Increase the dosage," he ordered. Another canister activated. The purple gas grew so thick that Danny could taste it now. Still nothing. No visions, no panic, no overwhelming dread. Just him standing in smelly purple smoke while his crewmates experienced their worst nightmares. A slight smile crossed Danny's face. "Is this really your best weapon?" The Krell commander moved closer, his weapon still holstered but his posture aggressive. "Every species in the galaxy fears our toxin. It triggers the deepest survival instincts, manifests ancestral terrors, breaks the strongest minds." "Sounds rough," Danny said conversationally. "For me, it just smells bad." 4 Krell warriors surrounded him now, their compound eyes studying him from multiple angles. One reached out with a scanning device, waving it across Danny's chest. "His biology is reacting to the toxin," the warrior reported. "Elevated adrenaline, increased cortisol, heightened neural activity in the amygdala." "Then why isn't he afraid?" the commander demanded. Danny scratched his head. Oh, I probably am afraid. My body's doing all its normal fear stuff, but that doesn't mean I have to act on it. He gestured at the terrified crew members. What exactly are they seeing anyway? The commander's mandibles clicked slowly. Their worst fears, species-specific terrors encoded in their genetic memory, for your avian friend, apex predators from his evolutionary past, for the reptilian extinction events, for the captain pandemic diseases that nearly wiped out his people. And for humans, Danny asked. We don't know yet. We've never deployed it against your species before. The commander circled him. What should you be seeing, human? Danny thought about it. Probably saber-toothed cats, or maybe Ice Age winters, plague doctors, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions. We've got a pretty long list of things that tried to kill us. But you see none of these things. Nope, Danny smiled again. Just you guys standing around looking confused. The commander contacted his ship through a wrist communicator. War Mistress Shixtel, we have a situation. The fear toxin has no effect on the human specimen. Static crackled, then a harsh female voice responded. Impossible. Increase the concentration. Already tripled the standard dose, War Mistress. Then restrain him physically. Bring him to the flagship. I need to understand this immunity. Krell grabbed Danny's arms. He didn't resist, just let them bind his wrists with energy cuffs. The restraints hummed against his skin, warm but not painful. Comfortable? One warrior asked sarcastically. I've had worse Monday mornings, Danny replied. As they dragged him toward their boarding shuttle, he looked back at his crewmates. They were still trapped in their fear-induced hallucinations, suffering through horrors only they could see. Captain Rillan was crying. Tivik had passed out. Crost was bleeding where her claws had scraped her own scales. You'll release them, right? Danny asked. The commander's mandibles clicked. Once we depart, they're useless to us now, but you, human, you're coming with us. The Syndicate needs to learn your secret. Danny settled into the shuttle's restraint harness. Sure, sounds like an adventure. The Krell warriors exchanged confused glances as the shuttle detached from Dawn's promise. Their prisoner was smiling. The Krell flagship Dread Harvest loomed in the viewport like a steel mountain. Its surface bristled with weapons arrays and sensor towers, all designed to intimidate before the fighting even started. Danny watched through the shuttle's window as they approached a docking bay that looked like a giant mouth ready to swallow them whole. War Mistress Shixtel waited in the hangar, flanked by 12 elite guards. Her armor was darker than the others, decorated with markings Danny assumed were battle honors. When the shuttle doors opened, her compound eyes locked onto him. Immediately. The human who smiles at fear, she said, her mandibles spreading in what Danny was learning might be their version of a grin. I've watched the footage 17 times. Explain yourself. Danny stepped forward despite his bound wrists. Not much to explain. Your gas didn't work on me. That's pretty much the whole story. Nothing is ever that simple, Shixtel gestured, and a smaller Krell scurried forward carrying a data tablet. This is Dr. Vennick, our chief biologist. He has studied your species for the past 6 hours. Dr. Vennick's mandibles clicked nervously. Humans evolved on a Class 12 death world. Your planet Earth sits at the extreme end of habitable environmental conditions. The predators alone would classify it as a hazard zone. We've got some dangerous animals, sure, Danny agreed. Dangerous? Vennick's voice rose an octave. Your apex predators hunt in coordinated packs. Your oceans contain creatures that can swallow your submersibles whole. Your insects carry diseases that killed millions. Your weather systems generate winds strong enough to flatten cities. Your tectonic activity regularly destroys entire regions. Yeah, Earth can be rough sometimes. Shixtel leaned closer. Our fear toxin works by triggering ancestral survival responses. Every species has genetic memories of their evolution's greatest threats. But humans, she paused. You have too many threats. Your fear response evolved to be controllable, or you would never have survived long enough to develop civilization. Danny nodded slowly. That actually makes sense. My ancestors couldn't afford to freeze up every time something scared them. They had to keep moving, keep thinking, keep fighting. Your biology acknowledges the fear, Venick explained. We detected elevated stress hormones, but your cerebral cortex overrides the paralysis response. You feel the fear and ignore it simultaneously. We call that courage, Danny said. Schickstal's guards shifted uncomfortably. One of them spoke up. There is no courage without fear, only foolishness or ignorance. Exactly, Danny smiled. Courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about being afraid and doing the thing anyway. My people have a saying. Bravery is being the only one who knows you're scared. The hangar fell silent. Several Krell exchanged glances, their mandibles clicking in rapid conversation too fast for the translators to follow. Schickstal finally spoke. Take him to the observation quarters, not the prison. Treat him as a guest. War Mistress, one guard protested. He's a prisoner. He's a teacher, Schickstal corrected, and we have much to learn. The quarters were surprisingly comfortable. Soft lighting, a sleeping platform that adjusted to his body, even something that resembled a bathroom. Danny was examining what he hoped was a shower when Schickstal entered alone. Your crew has been released, she said without preamble. Dawn's promise departed 3 hours ago. I kept my word. Thank you, Danny sat on the edge of the sleeping platform. So what happens now? Now you tell me how your species conquered fear. We didn't conquer it, Danny corrected. We just learned to work with it. Look, every human alive is scared of something. Heights, spiders, deep water, public speaking, dying alone. The list goes on forever. But you function despite these fears. Because we have to. Because our ancestors who froze up when the tiger appeared didn't pass on their genes. Because we invented stories about heroes who were terrified but fought anyway. Because we teach our children that being brave means doing the right thing even when you're shaking. Schickstal settled into a seated position. The Krell Syndicate has controlled this sector for 4 generations. We built our power on fear. Our toxin breaks the will of our enemies before battle begins. Entire fleets surrender rather than face us. That's not strength, Danny said quietly. That's just bullying with extra steps. Her mandibles snapped together sharply. Careful, human. I'm already kidnapped. Might as well be honest. Danny met her compound eyes. You've made everyone so afraid of you that you forgot how to actually fight. What happens when you meet someone who isn't scared? Like you. Like me, like anyone who's faced enough fear that yours just becomes background noise. Danny stood and walked to the viewport. Out there, there's probably a dozen species who have figured out what I figured out. That fear is just information, not a command. Schickstal joined him at the window. The Grix Coalition, they wear sealed armor. Our toxins cannot reach them. They advance with kinetic weapons and overwhelming numbers. We've lost 3 territories in the past month. Because you're paralyzed by your own medicine, Danny turned to face her. You're so used to making others afraid that when someone isn't, you don't know what to do. Can you teach us? The question came out quietly. Can you teach the Krell to function through fear? Danny studied her carefully. Why would I help the people who took me prisoner? Because 12 hours ago, I would have killed your crew without hesitation. Now I've released them unharmed. Because I'm asking instead of demanding. Because perhaps you see something in us worth saving. I see a civilization that's scared, Danny said. Scared of change, scared of weakness, scared of being on the receiving end of what they've given others. Yes, Schickstal admitted. We are afraid, and we don't know how to move forward anyway. Danny smiled. Then I guess that's where we start. The training chamber smelled like recycled air and nervous Krell. 20 warriors stood in formation before Danny, their compound eyes watching him with barely concealed hostility. He recognized their body language now. Mandibles tight, secondary arms crossed defensively, weight shifted back on their rear legs. They wanted to be anywhere but here. Commander Tixvar stepped forward. War Mistress Schickstal ordered us to train under this human. We will follow orders, but we do not have to like it. Fair enough, Danny walked along their line. Anyone here ever been in actual combat, not fear gas and intimidation combat, real fighting? Silence, a few warriors shifted uncomfortably. That's what I thought. Danny stopped in the center of the room. Your entire military doctrine is built on making the other guy too scared to fight back, but the Grix coalition isn't scared, so you're losing badly. The Grix are barbarians, young warrior Sictith spat. They have no honor, no sophistication. They also have 15 of your former territories, Danny replied. So maybe sophistication isn't winning this war. He activated the chamber's holographic system. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to scare you, then you're going to fight anyway. The holograms materialized. 3 Grix warriors, massive and armored, weapons raised. The Krell instinctively backed away. They're just projections, veteran warrior Ralix growled. I know, Danny smiled, but your bodies don't. Watch. He walked directly toward the holograms. His heart rate increased. His palms got sweaty. He could feel the adrenaline surge even though he knew they weren't real, but he kept walking. The holographic Grix swung a weapon through his chest. Nothing happened, of course. He turned back to the Krell. See, fear is just your body's alarm system. It warns you about danger, but you get to choose whether you listen to the warning or investigate further. Sictith raised a hand. How do you ignore your own biology? I don't ignore it, Danny explained. I acknowledge it. My body says, hey, that might be dangerous. And I say, thanks for the heads-up, body. I'll be careful. Then I do the thing anyway. He spent the next hour running them through scenarios. Each time the holograms got more threatening. Weapons fired, explosions detonated, simulated injuries appeared. The Krell struggled. Tixvar managed 3 steps toward an enemy hologram before freezing. I cannot. The instinct is too strong. What are you feeling right now? Danny asked. Terror, certainty that I will die. Every nerve in my body screaming to flee. Good, now take one more step. I cannot. You can, you just don't want to. There's a difference. Danny moved beside him. Your species spent millions of years developing these fear responses. You can't undo that in an afternoon, but you can learn to act despite them, one step, just one. Tixvar's legs trembled, his mandibles clicked in distress, but he moved forward one step. Again, Danny said. Another step, then another. By the 10th step, Tixter was standing face to face with a holographic Grix warrior. How do you feel? Danny asked. Terrified, Tixvar admitted, but functional. The other warriors watched in amazement. If their commander could do it, perhaps they could too. 3 weeks passed. The training intensified. Danny introduced human military concepts, controlled breathing, tactical thinking under stress, physical conditioning. The Krell were built for ambush hunting, not sustained combat. He adapted their natural advantages, speed, agility, multiple limbs, compound vision that saw in nearly all directions. You're not going to outmuscle the Grix, he told them during a tactical briefing. But you can outthink them, outmaneuver them, hit them where they're weak and vanish before they can respond. He called it Ghost Protocol. Strike fast, disengage, reposition, strike again, use the environment, create uncertainty, make the enemy afraid instead of being afraid themselves. Ralix grasped the concept quickly. We become the fear. Exactly, Danny nodded. But you can't make others afraid if you're paralyzed by your own fear. That's the secret. You have to function through it. News from the war front grew worse. The Grix had taken 2 more systems. Standard Krell units surrendered without firing a shot. The War Council pressured Shixtel to disband the experimental program. You promised results, War Counselor Drixtel challenged during a meeting Danny was allowed to observe. All I see is wasted resources and a human teaching our warriors to disobey their instincts. Not disobey, Shixtel corrected. Channel, there is a difference. Prove it, let these ghost warriors face actual Grix prisoners in arena combat. If they win, continue the program. If they lose, execute the human and return to traditional methods. Shixtel's mandibles clicked in agitation. Agreed. The arena was smaller than Danny expected. 20,000 Krell packed the observation decks, their chittering creating a wall of sound. 3 Grix prisoners stood in the center, each one massive, armored, carrying real weapons set to training mode. Tixvar, Sictith, and Ralix entered from the opposite side. They looked tiny compared to their opponents. Danny spoke to them privately before the match. "Remember everything. You're scared, that's fine, use it. Fear makes you faster, sharper, more alert. It's not your enemy, it's your fuel." "What if we freeze?" Sictith asked. "Then you acknowledge it and move anyway, one step at a time, just like training." The arena master signaled the start. The Grix charged forward with overwhelming force. Tixvar's team scattered, not fleeing but repositioning. They'd practiced this 100 times. Ralix struck from above, using the arena's vertical space. Sictith flanked left, weapons firing in precise bursts. Tixvar went low, sliding under a Grix swing. The Grix tried intimidation tactics, roaring, chest-beating displays of dominance. The Krell warriors acknowledged the fear Danny could see in their trembling limbs, but they kept fighting. The crowd's chittering changed tone, surprise, then excitement. Their warriors weren't running, they were hunting. 3 months after Danny's capture, the border system of Havoc 7 became a graveyard of ships. Destroyed Krell vessels drifted in the debris field, their hulls torn open by Grix kinetic weapons. Danny stood on the bridge of Dread Harvest, watching the tactical display with growing concern. 15 more ships lost. Schickstell's voice was tight. "The Coalition advances faster than we can retreat." The War Council surrounded the holographic map, their mandibles clicking in distress. Since the arena demonstration, Danny's Ghost Protocol had been implemented fleet-wide. 8,000 Krell warriors now trained in human combat philosophy, but the Grix still outnumbered them 3-1. "We should surrender," War Counselor Drixtel said. "Preserve what remains of our people." "The Grix don't take prisoners," Tixvar reminded them. He'd been promoted to strategic commander after his arena victory. "They want complete extermination, they've said as much." Danny studied the tactical map. The Grix fleet was advancing in a wedge formation, overwhelming everything through sheer numbers and firepower. Traditional Krell fear tactics had failed completely. The Coalition wore sealed environmental suits that blocked toxins. "May I suggest something?" Danny asked. Schickstell gestured permission. "You've earned the right to speak freely, human. You're fighting their way, big fleet actions, direct confrontation, but Ghost Protocol wasn't designed for that." Danny manipulated the hologram, highlighting the asteroid field near Havoc's 7 twin moons. "You need to make them fight your way instead." "Explain," Schickstell leaned forward. "They think you're cowards. Use that. Broadcast panicked communications, stage a chaotic retreat into the asteroid field, make them overconfident, then hit them when they're spread out chasing what they think is a broken enemy." "Deception," Drixtel's mandibles clicked dismissively. "We are warriors, not." "You're survivors," Danny interrupted. "And right now, surviving means adapting. The Grix expect you to either freeze or run, do both, then show them what happens when prey becomes predator." The plan took 2 days to implement. Krell ships received modified weapon systems, hidden arrays, enhanced engines, sensor baffles. Danny worked with the engineering teams, sharing human guerrilla warfare tactics. Ralix coordinated with his Ghost Squadron, preparing strike packages. General Braxis of the Grix Coalition received their false communications with satisfaction. "The Krell are panicking. Finally, their fear catches up to them." He addressed his fleet. "Pursue them into the asteroid field. Show no mercy. This ends today." The Grix Armada advanced, 300 warships against 120 Krell vessels. The numbers were brutal. But Danny had learned something about courage. It wasn't about having superior forces. It was about using what you had. Krell ships scattered into the asteroid field, broadcasting distress signals, engines apparently malfunctioning. The Grix formations broke apart, individual ships chasing fleeing prey, exactly as planned. Now Schickstell gave the order. Hidden weapons activated throughout the asteroid field. Mines, concealed torpedo platforms, energy snares. The Krell had spent weeks preparing this battlefield. The first Grix ships exploded before they even knew they were in danger. Tixvar's Ghost Squadron materialized from behind asteroids. Small, fast ships crewed by warriors who'd learned to fight through fear. They targeted Grix command vessels, engines, sensor arrays, hit and vanish. The doctrine Danny had taught them. Danny monitored the battle from Dread Harvest's tactical station. His hands shook. He was terrified. This was real combat, real deaths, real stakes. But he kept working, coordinating strike teams, identifying targets, feel the fear and act anyway. His own advice reflected back at him. A Grix battlecruiser broke through the defensive line, heading straight for Dread Harvest. Its weapons charged, and Danny watched the distance close. "Evasive maneuvers," Schickstal ordered. "Negative," Danny countermanded. "Hold position, launch fear toxin canisters directly at their hull." "They're in sealed armor," Ralix protested. "I know, but they don't know we know that. They're overconfident, make them hesitate." The canisters launched. Purple gas spread across the Grix ship's hull. For 3 seconds, just 3, the battle cruiser's advance slowed, their crew probably laughing at the futile gesture. 3 seconds was enough. Tixvar's squadron struck from 3 angles simultaneously. The battle cruiser's shields collapsed. Then its engines, the massive ship, went dark. "You used their expectations against them," Schickstal observed. "Same thing you've been doing to everyone else for decades," Danny replied. "Fear is a weapon, but so is the absence of expected fear." The battle raged for 6 hours. The asteroid field became a maze of explosions and debris. Grix ships, designed for open space warfare, struggled with the tight quarters and unpredictable Krell tactics. General Braxis watched his fleet numbers drop, 40 ships destroyed, 60 disabled. The Krell were supposed to be cowards. This was something else. He opened a channel to Schickstal. "What have you done to my warriors?" "We taught them what you forgot," Schickstal replied. "That courage isn't about not being afraid, it's about fighting anyway." "Your human advisor," Braxis's voice carried grudging respect. "He trained you. He showed us that fear and strength aren't opposites, they're partners." The Grix fleet began withdrawing, not retreating, withdrawing, a tactical decision rather than panic. Braxis's final transmission was simple: "We will negotiate." The bridge erupted in chittering celebration. Krell warriors who'd spent their lives making others afraid had just defended their territory through courage. Danny slumped in his chair, exhausted. Schickstal approached. "You could have let us fall. Instead, you saved us. Why?" "Because you asked. Because you were willing to change. Because maybe the galaxy needs fewer people using fear as a weapon and more people learning to overcome it." She placed a hand on his shoulder, a very un-Krell gesture she'd learned from observing him. "The War Council wishes to make you Fleet Admiral, give you command of our training divisions." Danny laughed. "I'm a cargo handler, not a soldier. I just shared what my people figured out 10,000 years ago." "Then what do you want?" "To go home to my crew, but," he paused, "I'll come back, help with the training, cultural exchange, whatever you need, just not as an admiral, as a friend." Schickstal's mandibles spread, and what Danny had learned was a genuine smile. "Friend, yes, I think we understand that concept now." The shuttle bay of Dawn's Promise looked exactly as Danny remembered. Scratched metal walls, the faint smell of hydraulic fluid, cargo containers stacked in neat rows. Captain Rillan waited at the airlock, his furry face split in a wide grin. "You survived the Krell Syndicate," the captain said. "I wasn't sure we'd see you again." Danny stepped off the Krell shuttle, carrying nothing but the clothes on his back. "Survived and made some friends. Turns out they're not so bad once you get past the whole fear toxin and piracy thing." Engineer Crost emerged from behind a supply crate. "The news feeds say you changed their entire military doctrine, that you taught them courage." "I just talked to them," Danny shrugged. "Showed them that fear doesn't have to win." Tivik fluttered down from an overhead catwalk. "You're famous now. Half the galaxy wants to interview the human who smiled at fear gas." Danny groaned. "Please tell me we have cargo runs scheduled. I need normal work." "3 contracts waiting," Captain Rillen confirmed. "Medical supplies to Outpost Vega, construction materials to the Terran colonies, and a very specific request from the Krell Syndicate for human trade consultation." "Trade consultation?" Danny raised an eyebrow. "They want to establish formal partnerships, learn human business practices. It seems you've opened doors that were previously barricaded with fear." Danny spent the next week loading cargo containers. His muscles remembered the work, the familiar burn of physical labor grounding him after months of tactical planning and combat training. Several crew members asked about his time with the Krell. He answered honestly but briefly. There was no point dwelling on it. A message arrived on the ship's communication system. Audio only. Tixvar's translated voice crackled through. "Danny Reed, the 1st Human-Trained Battalion, completed its mission. 0 casualties, full objectives achieved. Your Ghost protocol works in actual combat situations. We are grateful." Another message followed, Shixtal this time. "The Grix Coalition has requested formal peace negotiations. They propose a treaty that recognizes Krell territorial integrity in exchange for non-aggression guarantees. We are considering. Your input would be valued." Danny recorded a response. "Accept the treaty. Peace is always harder than war, but it lasts longer, and Shixtal, you don't need me anymore. You've learned the lesson. Pass it on to others." 6 months after his return to Dawn's Promise, the Galactic Council convened for an extraordinary session. Danny watched the broadcast from the ship's common area while eating synthesized protein bars that tasted vaguely like chicken. "Why are we watching this?" Krust asked. "Krell Syndicate is applying for council membership," Danny explained. "First time in history." The screen showed Shixtal addressing the assembled delegates. "For 4 generations, my people ruled through fear. We believed terror was strength. We were wrong. Fear is a tool, but courage is a foundation. We have learned this from the most unlikely teacher, a human cargo handler who refused to be afraid." The camera briefly showed Danny's file photo. He nearly choked on his protein bar. "You didn't mention this part," Captain Rillen said. "I didn't know about this part." Shixtal continued. "We request membership not as conquerors, but as reformed warriors. We have dismantled our fear toxin production facilities. Our military now operates under a doctrine we call Ghost Protocol, courage under fire, tactics over terror. We seek to contribute to galactic stability, not undermine it." The vote took 3 hours. Delegates argued, questioned, debated. Some species still remembered Krell raids. Others saw the potential for genuine change. Finally, the council chair called for decision. In favor of Krell Syndicate membership, 217 votes, against 83 votes, abstentions 44 votes, motion carries, welcome to the Galactic Council. The broadcast showed Shixtal's mandibles spreading in that smile Danny had helped her learn. She mentioned him by name. "This achievement belongs to Danny Reed, who taught us that the scariest thing you can do is not be scared at all." Danny quietly slipped out of the common area before his crewmates could start asking questions. He found himself in Cargo Bay 3, staring at the containers he'd be unloading at their next stop. "Running away from fame," Captain Rillen's voice came from behind him. "Just want to do my job," Danny replied. "You changed an entire civilization. That's more than a job." "I had a conversation. They changed themselves." Danny ran his hand along a cargo container. "Anyone could have done it." "But you did." The captain moved beside him. "And now other species are reaching out. The Haveran Collective wants human military advisors. The Zentari Assembly is requesting cultural exchange programs. Even the Grix Coalition has asked about fear management training." Danny sighed. "I'm not a teacher or a diplomat. I load cargo for a living." "You're whatever the galaxy needs you to be," Rillen said gently. "But I understand. Sometimes the hardest courage is just staying who you are when everyone wants you to be something more." A month later, Danny was checking inventory when a security alert sounded. A species he didn't recognize had stopped their crew at the station entrance. The alien, something with too many eyes and crystalline skin, was trying to intimidate them with aggressive posturing. Danny walked over. The alien turned its attention to him. "You will surrender your cargo. I am Kreth of the Obsidian Reavers. You should fear me." Danny looked the alien up and down. That familiar rush of adrenaline hit, his body registering potential danger. His heart rate increased. His muscles tensed, fear pure and simple. He smiled. "No," he said simply. Kreth's crystalline features shifted in confusion. You're not afraid." "Oh, I'm terrified," Danny corrected. "You look dangerous. My body is screaming at me to run. But here's the thing, fear is just information, and I've decided that this information doesn't change what I'm going to do, which is protect my crew and my ship." The alien backed away. "You're the human from the broadcasts, the one who broke the Krell." "I didn't break anyone, I just talked to them." Danny kept his voice calm. "Same thing I'm doing with you. You can try to scare us or you can walk away, your choice." Kreth chose to walk away. Captain Rillan emerged from the ship. "That's going to keep happening, isn't it?" "Probably," Danny admitted. "Turns out being immune to fear gas makes for good publicity." "You going to smile at all of them?" Danny thought about it. "Yeah, probably it's what I do."